Hello, welcome to my channel. In this episode we'll take a look at African violet miniatures and semi-miniatures that are blooming this month. This is a semi-miniature by Folkman called Pinki. It's a vintage variety that has medium green leaves and pink semi-double blooms, and in my growing conditions it grows more like a miniature than like a semi-miniature. I think it's about 4 inches across. In comparison, in front of it is a semi-miniature by Linden Line Greenhouses and Paul Serrano called Emerald Pink, and you can compare the size of the two rosettes. Emerald Pink is a profuse bloomer and it has very pale light peachy pink blooms with green edge. This is Rob's Voodoo Blue. It's a miniature by Ralph Robinson and it has very intense dark blue blooms and dark green rosette. Next to it is a first blooming cycle of a beautiful variety called Tipped Honey by Hortense Pittman. It has shiny, glossy, pointed leaves, dark green leaves, and dark red, almost fuchsia color blooms with dogwood white tips. Beautiful. Here is the very first bloom of a miniature trailer called Opera Dock. It has very beautiful rose-shaped blooms that are very light pink and cream with some green edge, and it's just opening its first blooms. This is a semi-miniature by Yelena Libetskaya, a hybridizer that lives in Ukraine, called Scales. It has beautiful variegated rosette and light blue with white edge double blooms. Here is Honey Blue Ace, a miniature by Hortense Pittman with dark green foliage and beautiful blue and white edge blooms. It's a constant bloomer. Next to it is Jolly Moonflower. It's a semi-miniature variety by Hortense Pittman with dark green leaves and white and yellow blooms. And I even see some pink in them. They're beautiful. The pink appears more in the summertime, in the warmer growing conditions. Here is Mikinda Girl. It's a miniature variety by Adams. And it has variegated girl leaves and single series pansy-shaped blooms. And then next to it is an unknown variety that looks very much like Mikinda Girl in the blooms. They're also single series colored pansies, but size-wise it looks more like a semi-miniature. So it might be a sport of Mikinda Girl that grows larger in size. And the leaves don't have any variegation on them, so they're just dark green girl-shaped leaves. Here is another girl leaf variety called Little Bow Peep by Storyteller. It's a vintage African violet with pink semi-double blooms and medium green girl leaves. Next to it is a profuse bloomer called Morgan's Déclan Duff. It's a miniature variety by Carol Eris. And look at the amount of blooms. It has a thumbprint pattern on pencil-shaped single blooms. Here is a miniature variety with bell-shaped dark blue blooms and variegated rosette, and it's a NOID, meaning that this violet has no ID. I don't know who the author is, or I don't know its name. I just keep it in my collection for its beauty. Here is Sassy Sister by Sydney Serrano. It's a semi-miniature variety with beautiful rose-shaped dark pink blooms. And in cooler temperatures, the blooms have some green edge. And sometimes it looks even bronze. The edge is more prominent in the cooler growing temperature. Here is Painted Silk. It's a variegated girl leaf variety with dark, vivid blue blooms that are single pencil-shaped blooms of beautiful, bright dark blue color. And it's a hybrid by J. Stokes. Then far back here is Rob's Cotton Ball. It's a semi-miniature by Ralph Robinson that has very full double white blooms with some blue center. It appears more in cooler growing temperatures, and otherwise they just have mostly white and green in them. Here is a miniature by Ralph Robinson called Rob's Smarty Pants. It has very beautiful blooms, and this is the first bloom. They have white, pink, and some fantasy, blue fantasy in them. Here is another miniature by Ralph Robinson called Rob's Bed Bunny. This is the very first bloom. I like this variety for the variegation on the leaves. It has some gold and some pink in it. It's a beautiful hybrid. And the blooms are semi-double pink with darker center. Here is another Rob's variety called Rob's G. Jim. It hasn't bloomed for me yet, so I'm very excited to see the first buds. And it has variegated girl foliage. Behind it is a beautiful semi-miniature that is a favorite of many called Kentucky Gooseberries by David Rawlings. And this is the first blooming cycle. The blooms look like miniature roses of white color with pink center. Here is the first blooming cycle of Cajun's Little Ooh La La by Belinda Thibodeau. It has beautiful variegated semi-miniature rosette, and the blooms are pink with some purple fantasy. And the blooms on this plant are mostly single pansy-shaped blooms. The variegation on this variety is really beautiful. It's mostly pink and beige with some dark green. Here is a semi-miniature by George MacDonald called Mac's Dark Night of the Soul. It has variegated foliage and very beautiful deep purple dark double blooms. Here in front is Rob's Boogie Woogie. This is the first blooming cycle. It's a semi-miniature by Ralph Robinson with variegated foliage that has some beige and pink and cream. Beautiful variegation on this hybrid. And the blooms are light pink, shell pink pansies that are single and semi-double. Here is a miniature by Barbara Goodsell and Hortense Pittman called Honey Blue Angel. This is the first blooming cycle. It has girl medium green foliage and blue blooms that are double with some white and green edge. These are beautiful blooms. And then here is a girl variety by unknown hybridizer called Water Nymph. And it bloomed for me already once when I just received it, and it is going to bloom soon again. And it has very full double blooms that are lavender and dark purple in color. It's a beautiful variety. And let's take a peek at what's happening in the bubble garden. As you can see, there have been some changes. So last time I showed it to you, it had Rob's Twinkle Blue. It's a micro miniature variety with dark blue, bell-shaped pansy blooms and dark green leaves by Ralph Robinson. It is resting now. It has finished its first blooming cycle. The terrarium moss is doing nicely and it keeps growing really well. And I have repotted a semi-miniature trailer that used to be growing next to Rob's Twinkle Blue Sank's Arctic Fox Sport into its separate container, so it's acclimating there now, and I'll keep you guys updated on the progress of that variety. And on its place now is a miniature trailer called Chantaspring with pale yellow bell-shaped blooms. I received it recently from Violet Barn, and this is the first blooming cycle, so it's giving me the first blooms and I'm very excited about them. I hope it does nicely in the bubble. So these are all of my African violets that are blooming right now. We are in the month of September and today is September 27th, 2020. I hope you enjoyed them. Thank you all so very much for watching, and I hope I will see you again. Stay safe and be well. And if you liked this video, click the like button and subscribe.